So this is out of 20, 10 have joined.
Yes, so 10 have joined, so they will keep joining it. It's sir, students are already, yeah.
Yeah.
So thank you so much, sir, for giving your time. So on behalf of the Center of Excellence for Sustainable Livelihood Research, I welcome you because the Center of Excellence for Sustainable Livelihood Research is a joint initiative by the Bharatiya Samvad Kendra and the Department of Political Science, Central University of Andhra Pradesh. So it is my immense pleasure and honor to interact with you virtually for the first time via this internship, via this workshop. And I welcome you for today for this workshop titled as in From Insight to Action, ethical research and issue brief writing for the sustainable impact. And I believe, sir, your prolific work in the science, technology, and society studies, and your deep engagement with the agriculture sector, disability studies, and rural development definitely has consistently inspired the researchers and the practitioner alike. And your commitment to socially embedded research and participatory model of the knowledge production perfectly aligns with the spirit and mission of this internship program. So our interns embark their journey for the two writing the two basically two issue brief, pre and post field issue brief, which is rooted in the ethical inquiry and the field based evidence. So your insights will definitely help them to bridge the gap between the theoretical understanding what they have understood till today and the grounded action which they are going to enter into the field, and they will learn after entering into the fields because they will understand how the policies are being practiced are practicing at the grassroots level. So we are confident, sir, that your guidance will leave a lasting impression on their approach to public policy and research writing. And sir, I would like to give you the brief idea about that, what exactly doing in this internship, and what exactly the task has been given to them, and how they started, and what exactly they have done till today. So within the first week, that was the foundational week for them. So the purpose of the task was being to let them understand that how they can work in an integrated manner in the three sector: health, education, and livelihood. So we focused on the women's health in the health sector, maternal child health, and for the livelihood we focused on the how women are playing important role in the informal economy and how financially literate the women are. Yeah, and then the second, the education sector, that what exactly the foundational literacy rate, and then how the education and foundational literacy for the girls is impactful at their state. So they understood the situational analysis based, they did the research work which was totally situational analysis based. And by understanding this evidence informed of the livelihood ecosystem with a focus on the maternal child health and this livelihood for these three sectors. And we asked them to focus upon the writing the informational post, that choose one policy in from three domains, and then do focus on that policy, and then do analyze that how it is working in your respective state wherever you are located. Like somebody is from the Telangana, somebody is from the Uttar Pradesh, so you have to do the situational analysis of your understanding, so that the development reality you can understand related to the state level. So we encourage them to for the database research thinking combined with the situational reflection. And we prepared them basically that now you have to start interacting with the experts who are actually practicing the policy at the grassroots level, either any person whosoever is working as an NGO coordinator, or who is running an NGO, or any professor who is practicing the policy or doing the localized advocacy. So based on their secondary data insights, and then we asked them to interact with the expert, and they did interact with the expert, and they understood the expert insights as well. They understood what the data says, and now they are fully prepared to enter into the field. So as this workshop will definitely assist them to basically to be the ethical, to how to write the ethical ethics based issue brief, and what sort of the parameters they have to consider while writing the issue brief. So we ask them to do one more thing, that whatever the knowledge you have gained via this 1 month internship program, because this is 45 days internship program, via this 1 month of this internship, So you have to disseminate your knowledge by conducting a workshop in the nearby school, and the school that must be the government school, and you have to do the knowledge dissemination, and you have to basically provide the awareness to the girls, and particularly the 11th and 12th standard students, so that they can understand that whether the students for whom they are targeting, they are understanding the policies are working or not. So they can understand while interacting with them whether how much informed those students are, how much informed those basically stakeholders are. So after this workshop, so this visit is being designed, and now they will enter into the field visit after this understanding of the workshop via this research writing, that how they can bring this insights to the action, and how ethically research and issue brief writing they can start for the sustainable impact for the society. So this is how this internship is being designed, sir, and I request you to start giving them idea that what exactly they have to do. And before you're starting, sir, I would like to add one more thing, sir, that this pre-filled and post-filled brief is like this. The pre-filled brief is the preparatory lens which we have already given to them, and it will definitely help them to prepare just a hypothesis. It's a kind of the hypothesis building stage for them, and after their understanding based on the secondary insights and the PAB minutes data, they will enter into the field, and after the field visit, they will have the more sharper understanding that what exactly the policies are, how the policies are working at the grassroots level, so how the policy is meeting the people. So this is what this internship is being designed, sir. So I request you to start the workshop of today, and I won't take more time, much time, sir. But I request you to start this workshop, starting from the defining a policy problem, how they can initiate and how they can focus on the ethics, and how they can become an informed, the citizen of the society. So thank you so much, sir, for giving your precious time. And it's my immense pleasure that I'm interacting with you for the first time via this workshop. And please, sir, begin. It's my request to you, please.
Yeah, thank you, Aman. And also, good morning to all the participants here, students. I think they are joining slowly. Uh, uh, we can actually proceed with the same task for me.
Yes.
So, uh, I believe all the students are undergoing this internship for the first time. I make it more participatory. Please respond. So it is not a monologue. So uh, among this, Bindu, are you there? Puneet,
Yes, sir.
Ayushi, Ayushi,
Yes, sir.
uh,
Yes.
are there two Ayushis? One Ayushi Bose, Ayushi Dhaka, Asadullah, Asif,
All of you can turn on your camera and can
Yes,
interact
sir.
with
yeah,
Yes, sir.
it's
Tinkeshwar, Keshav, Vikas,
Yes, sir.
Girija. Turn on your camera if you don't
Yes,
mind.
sir.
Vaishnavi, Janya, Shivashankar. You're all there?
Yes, sir.
so all of you
Okay,
can turn on your camera and can interact, can make it more, interactive type of workshop, because it is very important you to understand.
good, Asadullah.
Yes.
So it is, shall we say, part of ethics in an online meeting to show at least once for a brief time your face so that we get familiarized. Yeah, Radhika, I thought you are part of this NGO. Okay. So the point I'm trying to make is you're all going to this field work in the rural Andhra Pradesh. Am I right?
They're going to do the workshops, these field visits are in their respective state wherever they are located. Few are in Andhra, few
Okay.
are in their native state.
Native states. Okay. So how many of you are not familiar with village or rural side at all? How many of you have not seen a village? Seen matlab not just passing through, going to somebody's house for a short stay, 1 day or 2 days, but who have lived little longer, who are exposed to the rural atmosphere. Anyone? You have to respond. Are you all familiar with the villages? Or I should ask a question like, how many are you from village, village background?
Sir, till my fifth class, I stayed in the village.
Okay, that's considerable time. Then who else? Or can one of you can tell me how many of you, if you have the profile of your co-members present here, what percentage of you belong to rural areas? Anyone can make a statement?
As far as I know, almost everybody is living in the village. Asadullah, Radhika, and then almost everybody is living in the village nowadays.
Okay. No, no. Nowadays,
Yeah.
do they come from that background, the rural background? So then I should ask question like, what distinction you can draw between rural and urban? What is the basis? How do you define rural? Ayushi?
Well, I think the biggest difference would be in terms of how communities live. Rural communities tend to be a lot more knit together compared to
Hmm.
urban communities, which are very individualistic in nature.
Hmm.
The second most obvious difference would also be in terms of the kind of amenities you have in rural areas compared to urban areas in terms of the quality of education or general sanitation in institutions.
Okay. That's a good attempt. Anyone else wants to add any point to this? Arushika, please feel free. Girija?
Sir, I guess it would be employment structure, whereas in villages, most people are self-employed or employed in smaller employment structures like maybe farms or with the local schools, hospitals, etc.
Hmm.
Without connectivity, but mostly in urban places, they're mostly involved in big corporate offices, etc. And also availability of resources, like you don't get Swiggy, Zomato in villages.
Okay. So Radhika?
Yes, sir, it's almost done. One point we can add in the terms of health services in rural and urban, there's a difference. Like mostly in rural areas, we could not find the that much kind of developed hospitals as we find in the urban metropolitan cities.
Aman, I doubt your statement. Not all of them have any exposure to rural areas.
Okay.
So,
No,
uh,
they
no, no,
have
I'm just
mentioned
saying that
their addresses like this.
I'm
So
just trying to convey something more. Don't
yes,
take
yes.
it to take literally. But the point is, uh, what differentiates? For example, if I develop a venture outside the city, these days people are buying villas, right? Like Noida, going outside Noida and buy farmlands and construct villas and start living there. So, do you where you don't have Swiggy and Zomato, access to Swiggy and Zomato, or health services are far away located? So, do you consider that as a rural area or an urban area? Kasadullah, your voice is not audible.
So, as per the textbooks, like the one example you're citing, that if you have Zomato or Swiggy, it would of course be considered as urban area.
Hmm.
And from the books, what I could say is that rural areas have gram panchayats, and
Okay.
urban areas are under municipalities. And apart
Okay.
from that, what I have experienced are two kinds of rural areas. One area that was very prosperous, but it was poor in terms of awareness and the modernness. And one was the rural area that lacked basic amenities, and it was a poverty-stricken area.
Okay. So what about slum located in urban area? Because it's also poverty stricken and also people are poor, malnourished, no health services. So can we call that as rural?
So actually, the one I am saying that it was poverty-stricken was a slum area from a city only.
So that's what. Can we call this slum as a rural area?
So it is something similar like that. Like it is portrayed similar as that.
So we cannot technically call it as rural area. So what distinguishes between rural and urban according to government uh,
So
official
based on the
definitions?
job sector in rural area, it is more of an informal sector, which is on temporary basis. And
Okay.
in the urban area, it is more in a wider sense. So let's take in rural areas, it's more of a street vendors, temporary job, and more or less if they are going beyond agriculture, then it will be working in a factory or in a manufacturing sector as a prior labor. So I think that's the a major economic difference between a rural area and this urban area.
You are coming close to it. So at a broader level, how can we categorize? So we can categorize as farm occupations, non-farm occupations. Not about formal, informal. Farm, FARM. Farm occupations and non-farm occupations. That means in a rural area, majority of the people live on agriculture directly or indirectly. So agriculture-based occupations. So their major source of livelihood is agriculture. So that can be considered as one of the criteria, right? And density of population. So these two are considered to categorize some area as an area as rural or urban. So typically in urban areas, density of population is more. You all familiar with density of population? Number of persons per square kilometer, right? So the density of population in rural areas is less, and majority of the people sustain on agriculture based occupations. So agriculture becomes the major source of livelihood. So apart from this, the characteristics or the features you have told are correct. But technically speaking, we cannot consider, for example, an area where there is no Zomato or Swiggy services as rural area, or where there is poor health facilities, poor health infrastructure, or slum. So typically, slum is a feature of an urban area. You don't find slums in rural areas, right? So this is an important dimension when we venture out to field studies, particularly in rural areas. So, as I understand, you will be going to a rural area, a village. Let us use the word village for your internship, as part of which you are supposed to collect data on certain dimensions. So, those I think three dimensions are maternal, if I'm uh, not wrong, maternal and child, education, and women's role in the informal economy. So, this session basically familiarizes you with the issues of research. So, we call it as research. The effort you are making is not a kind of a casual inquiry. You are not making a casual conversation or chit chat, or you are going to spend your time just like that. So you are not a tourist. Of course, there is a kind of what branding as development tourists. See, this is actually used for some certain NGOs or certain section of people, professionals engaged in development activities or development sector. So they are called as development tourists. Why do we call them development tourists? Because they just want to visit the place and the places which are accessible, amenable, easy to collect data, and then stay there for not more than a day or visit during the daytime, and they would like to come back in the evening to the nearest city or town where they can find a comfortable stay. And they visit once a while, right, when all things are fine. For example, weather, road conditions, when there are no floods or when there are no rains, when there is no heat. So they look at the best possible time to visit. So they call them as development tourists. So this has been the debate uh, in development sector. Uh, so you speak to people who are who with whom you are comfortable, or whoever responds positively with you, or whoever responds or provides you a seat, or provides you a cup of tea, right? Or whomever you like. So many of us going from urban areas would not like to go into the deeper lanes of a village, which are not blacktop nor cement road, neither cement roads are there, and we don't venture into or get into the houses which are thatched, where there are no basic facilities for sitting. You will be afraid of soiling your clothes, soiling your shoes, right? You are averse to the stink or the odor. So these are all realities. For example, the poor will have cattle along with their habitation, and they live there, and there are open drains, and there are several, uh, say, mosquitoes or houseflies. So we are averse. Most of these development professionals, when you look at them, some of them, not all. So they would like to. Their task is to visit and collect some data. But the important point is what data you are collecting and from whom you are collecting this data. So the data which you are collecting is representative, whether the data you have collected is uh, reflects the actual reality, right? So these are the ethical issues which we all should have or take note of. And there is another important dimension to this data from rural areas. For example, if any officials, government officials are asked to collect data, for example, in North India, Tahsildars, the system is still there. In South India, we have Mandal system is there instead of Tahsils. Each block is carved out into several mandals, 8 to 9 mandals. So we have Mandal Revenue Officer, the way you have block development officer. So from time to time, different departments, different ministries ask them to provide data. What they do, generally we have seen in practice that, for example, an agricultural officer is asked to report the acreage under different crops, right? In the particular season, how many acres are under paddy cultivation, how many acres are under soybean, cotton, sugarcane. They never actually, these agriculture extension officers never visit these villages. So they have their own justification. They say that no, we are paid only salaries for our work, and we are never paid for our transport allowance. So why should we spend money on visiting these villages by spending money on fuel or hiring a vehicle, right? So they just stayed this in this town, and then uh, these days we have the phone mobile services. So they have their own men or people in these villages, maybe the village head or gram sarpanch or other members whom they are comfortable in talking to, and call them over phone and ask them how many acres in your village are under paddy cultivation. right? So they collect data and then by evening they will send the report to the government. So how ethical it is, how or what kind of data we are producing. In fact, this is a reality we are facing, India is facing. Though we talk about digital era, digital governance, right? Use of mobile phones, smartphones as tools for data collection, etc. There is no robust mechanism in the collection of data. More than the robust mechanism, it is the commitment, the honesty, or the integrity of the officials in collecting data and supplying data. So the only we can say that about up to 60 to 70% of the efforts made by census enumerators is honest. There are variations. There are dark side of it. Where when we assign this work to teachers, we have seen cases where teachers never visit actually the households. So they will sit at one place and then collect some people and gather some people and then collect through them. So this is an important dimension and appreciate BNSK Bharat and Aman and Central University of Andhra Pradesh taking this, considering this as an important issue uh, to familiarize the interns about the seriousness of this issue. I really appreciate them because students, now you are students, interns, but in the future you are going to be part of this larger discourse of rural development or part of administrative services, etc. So I have some slides I will share here. How to share? I can share, right? On my own.
Yes, sir. You can share it. You can share it.
Yes. One minute. Can you see this?
It's visible,
Can you
sir.
see this?
It's
Is it visible?
yeah. I hope it's visible to everybody.
Yes, sir.
Yes, it's visible.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Excellent. So I'm using the same title as From Insight to Action, Ethical Issues in Research and Issue Brief Writing for Sustainable Impact. So I'm fortunately UGC has come out with these guidelines. It's available in the website, that is ugc.government.in, on guidance document for good academic research practices. So this is actually a broad kind of template for good academic research. That means academic research practices. That means it is for sciences as well as social science students. So we take for social science component where it says research integrity and relevance. We'll discuss or we'll look at the research integrity and its relevance to rural context. And if you look at that, we have these threats like fabrication, falsification, plagiarism, and subtler forms of maleficence. So these threats are common to all kinds of research, not necessarily to social science research or field-based research. Fabrication, falsification, plagiarism. So you have different uh, ways of fabricating things. So, in fact, there is an important title, not just it actually doesn't talk about the dark side of laboratory life, but highlights the issues associated with scientific practices, what happens in the laboratories. So that's the work is titled as the manufacture of knowledge. You can see how provocative that title is. The title itself says the manufacture of knowledge. So, which I'm not showing it here. Uh, but because when we talk about fabrication, uh, the author is the scholar's name is Nor Setina. She talks about the manufacture of knowledge, wherein knowledge is manufactured. So I'm actually instigated by this term fabrication. So fabrication we see only in uh, in other material things. With we fabricate materials, but do we also fabricate different materials for research, like your data, your research questions, your size of sample, the method of sampling, etc. So just to see that your hypotheses are supported or your thesis is supported. Then falsification. How do we arrive at these statements without proper or without subjecting them to falsifiability? As Karl Popper says, Karl Popper is a scholar, well-known scholar in the fields of sociology of science. So falsification means your statements must be above any uh, questions of doubt, right? So, falsifiability is an important feature in knowledge production. And of course, these days we are talking about plagiarism. You are all familiar with the term plagiarism, wherein to what extent we are collecting literature or data or other things are original. So, or even if plagiarism talks about uh, the usage of the existing research without giving citation or without giving the credit. And also plagiarism talks about the copying of ideas in its original form without your discretion or without any corrections or appropriate changes, and also giving credit to the original thinker. So these are all different forms of maleficence which occur in the research process. So this is in general about whether it is science research or social science research. And these ethical breaches can occur at any stage of the research cycle, whether it is in the problem formulation stage, whether it is in the sampling stage. That means when you are collecting, when you are going to collect data, you want to select the respondents, or at the time of drawing inferences, or at the time of drawing conclusions. So these issues are there. So, so what is research integrity? Research integrity refers to the adherence to ethical principles and professional standards essential for the responsible conduct of research. So, research is a responsible activity. As I told you in the beginning, that uh, we are not journalists. Journalists, I don't say that journalists don't have ethics. Journalist ethics are also there, but research ethics are much more comprehensive and overarching, because a journalist brings out something to light, what is happening, what is unknown to the world. But what a researcher does, researcher is actually, can anyone say the difference between researcher and a journalist? This is an interesting question and also important feature.
So I think a journalist restricts themselves to just presenting the facts versus
Hmm.
a researcher would try to link that to academic theory or try to explain an underlying pattern in the behavior of the data.
You are close, Ayushi. Good attempt. Anyone else? What fundamentally different
Sir,
between? Yeah.
in my view, like researcher, he or she proves the hypothesis or uh, and has it like generalist, he provides the facts and reports it to the people, but researcher, he uh, proves the hypothesis and analysis and solves the problem with the help of analysis.
Excellent, Vaishnavi. You are just 1 meter away from the answer.
So I guess the news person, the journalist gives out a fact, the researcher finds out the reason.
Okay, excellent. That's also a good attempt. I am looking at one answer. I have an answer in mind. So, anyone who would like to give a try? So, what is the purpose of research? This is where you will find the answer. What is the purpose of research?
So to finding out the root cause issue.
Okay. So, what do you do after that?
So then there are, I mean, data, and they'll set a graph. They will know what is a real reason behind it, and there's so much of analysis, thinkers, and
Hmm.
then they come to a certain conclusion. Okay, this is
Hmm.
driven from this particular set of data.
You don't need to do research, right? You can actually, you can be an activist. So, in
Okay.
fact, most of the development in India occurred through activism. Did RTI came as a law through activism or through research? RTA, Right to Information Act,
Activism,
or
sir.
Activism, yes.
activism. So,
Yeah.
women's rights, children's rights, did they come through research or through activism? Or disabled rights?
Sir,
Hmm?
in at first that it races to the activism, but to finalize the policies, someone needs to do the research and collect the data to understand how at what level the problem is.
Okay. So, activism is not just sufficient, right? Activism is necessary but not sufficient to formulate policies. That's fine. Very good way of putting.
So activism
Yeah,
is like the
Girija, you want to add?
spokesperson of research.
Pardon?
Activism is like spokesperson of research. What research finds, activism says.
It could also be vice versa.
Yes, sir.
So there are no hard and fast boundaries between the one which comes first, which comes later. So a researcher may highlight the discrepancies, right? And then activism may come later to actually uh, force the government or state to enact laws, right? For example, child rights, child labor. Now we are talking about gig workers. There are no sufficient laws to protect them. Isn't it? Gig workers, you're all familiar?
Yes, sir.
Gig economy, gig workers, GIG.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, so you're all familiar. There are no enough laws to protect them, to take care of their welfare, right? So the important point research makes, or important contribution research does, is adding to the knowledge pool, adding to the knowledge pool. So research is not just aimed at unraveling things which is not known. which is about which the world is not familiar with or not aware of. It is not just stops, it doesn't stop there. It actually adds to the knowledge pool. That's why we call it as research. So, as one of you has pointed out, that it follows a particular procedure from formulating a research problem to collecting data using scientifically arrived at or scientifically evolved tools of data collection like questionnaire or interview schedule, and then analyzing data using standard methods of analysis, whether it is statistical analysis or qualitative data analysis, and arriving at meaningful conclusions or inferences, whether and most of the time social science research can or need not go with hypothesis. So you may have hypothesis, you may proceed with hypothesis based on your literature review, and then you test these hypotheses and you say that at the end that your hypotheses are proven or disproven. But in the process, what you're doing is you are contributing to the knowledge pool. That's why uh, literature review is very important. Literature review helps you to identify the important contributions in the particular field in your domain. So, thus, these standardized practices or procedures will make some investigation as research. So, this is where you can find the difference between a journalist and a researcher. Journalists need not have some hypothesis. Journalists need not have some predetermined questionnaire or standardized questionnaire. The journalist need not use established procedures in analyzing data, right? The journalist may not have a sampling strategy at all, right? Whereas the researcher cannot have such luxuries of doing on his or her own as one likes. You cannot conduct as you wish. You cannot say that, oh, this is the data and the data I collected is authentic. No. So this is where your findings are scrutinized, right? So that is why we call it as research. And basic aim of research is to contribute to the existing pool of knowledge. And that's why we don't do uh, research on the issues which are already researched enough. That is, we commonly use reinventing the wheel. We don't reinvent the wheel. We go to areas, we go to focus on issues uh, uh, which have not been researched enough, right? In any field, whether it is sciences or social sciences or literature or humanities, any field. So knowledge contribution is important, and in fact, the entire notion of science, right? This is where you actually differentiate between science and knowledge. What is the difference between uh, scientific knowledge and common sensical knowledge? Anyone? What I'm saying is this research-based knowledge is scientific knowledge. But whereas there is knowledge outside this scientific knowledge, then why don't we call that knowledge as scientific, but why we are calling this research-based knowledge as scientific knowledge? Can anyone say? Have an answer?
Sir, scientific knowledge that might be proved and uh, it might be proved and uh, can be visible through eyes.
Okay, tangible, empirical, you mean to say, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any other attempt?
So scientific knowledge needs prior theoretical knowledge into some field, and apart from that, mostly the results that are derived from the scientific knowledge are based on data, whereas the common sense does not need any such data. That can just be based on the experience or common saying of a person.
So you are saying verifiability, observability, testability, right? These are the features of science. Verifiability or testability and observability, isn't it? That's a good attempt. So to simply put it, science is nothing but certified knowledge. Certified. Certified knowledge. See, I know that by taking Dolo, pains can be relieved, body pains. Dolo tablet, but I cannot prescribe. It has to be prescribed by a certified doctor who has undergone training. So similarly, all knowledge cannot be considered as scientific knowledge because they are not certified. Certification comes through this research process. So the entire research process is nothing but achieving this certification because it has gone through these procedures, scientifically established or laid out procedures. So thus we call this knowledge as certified knowledge. So thus, yeah, coming back to the point, the research effort is to contribute to the existing pool of knowledge, which is considered to be scientific knowledge. So in this process, research integrity is very important. It refers to adherence to ethical principles and professional standards, essential for the responsible conduct of research. So research integrity includes honesty, transparency, accountability, respect for participants, communities, and collaborators. So honesty, in terms of what kind of honesty you are talking about here? How you can be dishonest when you're collecting data, particularly with respondents? Anyone? Are you all there?
Please respond if you're listening. No? Please respond. It's very important.
Suddenly, so far
Yes.
they were actively participating. Suddenly, yeah.
Exactly.
So, what do you say, Radhika?
So honesty, in terms of this research, we can say that we are being neutral, not being our self-centered and going with our point of view or our thinking, but rather looking in a neutral manner and what is exactly right and what is the situation, and not choosing particular on gender or uh, based on, I mean, my personal belief. So deciding that we are going in a prior and which is real, which is right. So I think so that.
Okay. Honesty, to simply put it, is stating your intentions clear. What for you have come, right? Whom you are going to meet, what kind of data you are collecting. So it overlaps with transparency also. Transparent means you make clear, you make things clear to them. So there should not be kind of any uh, communication gap, or you don't need to hide anything because researcher is apolitical. Researcher has no political agenda. Researcher is kind of tries to be objective, right? And accountability. Accountability to whom? Accountability to your field, your domain, or uh, the experts who are guiding you. Accountability to your discipline, and at the same time, accountability to the research fraternity. So one should have these in mind when you are going to the field. Keep these things in mind. Keep these points. Then, of course, respect for participants, communities, and collaborators. So, respect. How do you show respect? By being part of them, by trying to be like them, by trying to be speaking in their language, or by trying to be one among them. So we have in anthropology tradition, we have these methods of data collection like participant observation and non-participant observation. So participant observation requires the researcher to stay with the community for a longer duration. You become part of the community, particularly used in tribal research or researching on tribes. You become a part of it and then take part in all their activities, whether it is field operations or rituals, religious rituals or social rituals, etc. So, whether it is the group of participants, individual participants, communities, and also collaborators. So, respect for collaborators, whom through whom you are going to the field, right? So, in rural context, integrity also means being sensitive to the cultural aspects, right? So, several of these uh, cultural practices uh, may be kind of what do you say? Uh, if you are looking at them from a modernity perspective, they may not make sense. But there is some kind of meaning they are drawing. The people are involved. The people who practice have or associate a lot of meaning to that particular practice, right? And you cannot be kind of uh, uh, so that is this also called as uh, cultural relativism, right? In social science research, we use the term cultural relativism. So being sensitive to the cultural dimensions when you are going to the field. Uh, then reciprocity. If somebody offers you a seat, say thanks, or somebody offers you a glass of water, say thanks. And generally, what we do is we just keep the tumbler down. But it may be a good idea to clean the tumbler and give it back. If you're offered a cup of tea, then you just wash your own cup and then give it back. It is not just like hotel. You just come out after this. Just a minute. Huh? Yeah. So avoiding extractive practices that benefit researchers but not the community. So don't be all the time greedy and also kind of you act as though you have a shortage of time. I have to get things done. I have to get more and more information. I have to meet so many people in a day. I cannot waste my time waiting for someone, right? So you cannot act like that. You be relaxed, be there in the field, go with the flow, how people uh, react, how people take things. 1 minute, I'm just coming.
And I request you all, please interact. It's a workshop for you all, right? So I know that this is the batch which is most interactive one, but I don't know whether what happened to you, all of you today. Okay, so please keep it interactive. Okay, your active our participation is important.
Sorry. Yeah. So, not that you are all not aware, but these are all things we actually take them for granted. Uh, so this is about research integrity. Then threats to integrity in rural research. So as we have discussed in the previous slide, that fabrication, making up data or results, fictitious interviews, right? Some people may indulge or survey in hard to reach villages. We come across this. So they never go to the field. As I told you, the example of agriculture officers giving data about the village which they have never surveyed, or falsification, manipulating data or methods, right? Altering field notes to fit expected narratives. So the respondent will be saying something, but you will be recording the way it suits you, right? You don't want to get your hypothesis wrong. So we actually try to see that your hypothesis is proven. So you go with some kind of idea that this is what is happening and this program is not beneficial at all, or this program is very beneficial, and you always try to prove. So if one of the respondents, this happens in media now, generally when they find when they encounter people who actually go against their ideas, then they will stop recording or they will not telecast. So it cannot happen in research. So if it is not on the expected lines, you cannot ignore them. You have to bring it to the notice or bring it to data sheet. Then you say that the percentage of respondents, right? And plagiarism, using others' work without credit, or copying local knowledge or oral histories without attribution, right? So you just that's also uh, important dimension as far as rural research is concerned. And subtle maleficence like ethical lapses not easily categorized, misrepresenting community voices, ignoring dissent, or tokenizing participation. So generally we see I was part of this agriculture extension activities in several villages. So agriculture being agricultural science, we focus on farmers basically. But we actually face the hard reality when one of the girls from agricultural labor families came onto the stage when we were performing a drama and also other programs, saying that why you have not included any item with regard to the plight of agricultural farmers or agricultural laborers. Sorry, not farmers, because agricultural labor, those who do not have agricultural land, but they simply engage in farm operations. So they are technically not farmers, but even they are part of the entire agricultural ecosystem. So how can agricultural science ignore the needs of these sections of population? Was the thing the girl was asking. And it's kind of eye opener for many of us. How can we ignore this particular dimension? So that means you are actually not including their interests at all, right? Uh, this is what is happening actually. For example, in agricultural science, if I can take the example, we always these days, as you are familiar, every farmer is going for spraying of weedicides or herbicides. So this is purely a technical uh, solution arrived at keeping the interests of farmers in mind, farmers' interests alone in mind. Why I am saying this is generally by using weedicides, that means weedicides are sprayed to control weeds, growth of weeds in the fields, right? Otherwise, generally, what happens, farmer would have engaged many hands or many people for weeding. That means agricultural laborers would have got some employment. So by spraying weedicides, now agricultural laborers do not get those many man days, right? So this is an important dimension. So your solution is aimed at one particular section of the rural population or agricultural community. So I'm just giving you one example of this, how other points of view are important. So misrepresenting uh, community voices. So what comes to you? What comes to your mind when you talk about community? Is it those who are elected representatives or those who are vocal? So what about those who are silent, those who are marginalized? For example, when we do census research or disability research as part of it, till 2011, there was no census data collected on disabled individuals because they never thought that disabled are important part of this entire system and they are equal citizens. So because whenever census enumerators used to come, even the household family members never used to report the impaired individual or the disabled individual or the person with disability. And the enumerators also never showed interest to record them also. So they never used to record and thus they were ignored. So it is happening in our own present contemporary times, right? So ignoring dissent or tokenizing participation are also biggest problems. I'm just rushing. Uh, research design ethics. Select problems that offer societal value and address knowledge gaps, right? So as a researcher, important concern is to address the knowledge gap and the research problems should also uh, give respect to the value system of the society, the common value system, and frame objectives clearly with documented roles and responsibilities. Conduct, these are self-explanatory. I don't need to go deeper into these. Conduct a thorough literature review to locate the study in broader scholarly discourse. Thorough literature review is needed. So, some people, uh, there are two dimensions in research, particularly in social science research. One is that the researcher should go to the field uh, thoroughly read. The researcher should go to the field with a particular theoretical perspective in mind. So, how to look at the reality, how to understand the reality, etc. That means your research or your observation is guided by theory. So, this is called as theory guided research, right? You have particular framework, for example, feminist framework. Feminist framework will help you to locate the issues related to women by focusing more on women participants. So you are thoroughly guided because your literature review suggests that. Whereas another category of research which suggests that the researcher need not go loaded with theory. They say that let theory evolve during the fieldwork. This is known as grounded theory analysis. That means theory will evolve during the fieldwork. That's why it's called as grounded theory. So their point of contention is that if you are driven by a theory, you actually miss out various interesting and relevant dimensions of reality. So you'll be focusing so much on one particular dimension that the important relatable dimensions are missed out if you're going with a theory. So that's their point. That's why they say that let theory evolve during the course of fieldwork. But technically speaking, this is not widely accepted because a researcher cannot go empty-headed, right? A researcher cannot go empty-headed. Researcher should have some prior knowledge and prior framework. Without that, it is very difficult to conduct research. So conduct a thorough literature review to locate the study in broader scholarly discourse Acknowledge sources and previous researcher with proper citations. So this is already discussed. Then in rural field research, ethics matter and they are very important because the research which we carry out actually impacts the real lives, right? And ethics which will ensure respect and reciprocity. Rural communities, these are some features of rural communities, like rural communities value trust and relationships, and ethical research is sustainable and socially accountable. Then coming to the core principles of ethics, as you are familiar, informed consent is an important dimension. So informed consent, what is an informed consent? Anyone?
Sir, before taking any video or asking them questions, we need to take their consent in the video proof or written proof.
Yes. So these are important aspects, ethical dimensions of research. Uh, if you are using a questionnaire, the first part of the questionnaire, it talks about the informed consent. That means if the researcher is literate, can read and write, the researcher uh, puts signature. The researcher reads and then puts the signature or gives the consent. If the researcher is not literate, the researcher gives you oral consent. So that means that the researcher claims that the research or gives a brief about the purpose of research and how the data is going to be used. And you ask the respondent whether the respondent is willing or not. Only upon the willingness of the respondent, the researcher will go ahead with collecting data. But what about those respondents who are sick, for example, or who cannot, for example, you are dealing with a hearing impaired, disabled. How will you go about it? Go about informed consent?
Sir, by asking his or her like neighbors or family members or the one who takes care of.
Yes, the caretaker or the person who is close to the respondent, like if the particularly research on children, right? Children cannot give consent. So their parents, right? Or if the person is sick, the immediate dependents, right? So we have to tell them. So this is very widely followed in clinical research, uh, particularly dealing with patients, etc. And even we also do as part of health studies and all. If they are sick, we speak to, we'll take the consent from the immediate relatives or close relatives. Then privacy is maintained. That means you don't need to collect data in public view, in public gaze. This actually happens most of the time in rural areas. This also our first-hand experience. When we, as outsiders, go to a particular house for collecting data, as we walk through the lanes, people will gather. Simply, they just follow you. They will ask you where you are going, whom you want to contact. Then they'll say, "I will show you," and they'll remain during the interview process also, along with the respondent and you. Right? So the respondent may feel awkward. The respondent may not give you the actual details. Fear of these neighbors or others listening to their personal details, particularly with relation to sensitive topics. So this you can politely tell them that you please wait outside. I'll come back. Not using harsh words, but you can tell the others other than the respondents or the immediate family members. Sometimes even family members also may pose a threat to privacy of the respondent if you are dealing with some sensitive issue, right? So you can tell them politely. and you can explain the importance or the reason for maintaining the privacy. And you assure that you do no harm. By giving details, you are not going to harm the respondent in any way. For example, most of the time, villagers do not give actual details of their income. So these days, social welfare schemes are so prominent that every government is offering them some freebies. So, and they are being now increasingly linked to their annual income status. So they fear that you are collecting this data, and this data will be given to state, or state will take data from you. So in several cases, several instances, we have seen that they don't reveal actual income details, for example, or land details, right? In some other cases, the family members' details, right? So you have to assure them that the purpose, and you have to give the assurance that you are not going to disclose this data or information to anyone else apart from your research. And you have to assure that you will be using anonymous names. You are using actually codes. Generally, when we are collecting data through survey method, each questionnaire is coded, and the respondent is given the option of disclosing the name. The respondent can write name or leave it blank. It is not important for you. Name is not important. So because you are going to anyway code it. So that way you have to assure the respondents that you are not going to harm in any way, and ensure fair representation and benefit sharing. That means fair representation is about giving time to all the respondents equally. You cannot actually spend more time with those who are responsive to you and who are hostile to you. Less time with those who are hostile to you. Then then there is the issue of these are certain dilemmas. For example, consent versus individual autonomy. Uh, when we talk about consent, whose consent you are taking? Sometimes, on behalf of the respondent, some of the family members say, "No, no, you go ahead with the data collection. I am giving you the consent." When the respondent is agile and respondent is willing to give, or respondent is capable of giving responses to you, but the respondent is not willing, but some family members coerce, or the community members also coerce, or the gram panchayat representatives also may coerce. I am sending you to so and so person, he will give you information, you go and collect from them. Will you go and collect from that respondent? If the sarpanch says, if the individual is not willing, we don't encourage that. So a disabled youth may consent through a village elder, but may not understand the study or feel free to refuse. So the respondents are because of some structural issues. So, for example, a poor man cannot say no to the sarpanch. So he is unwillingly coming forward to give you information because out of compulsion. So if he is not, if he deny, the sarpanch may say something else after you leave. So that's why he is coming forward to give you information, right? So be aware of these, be sensitive to these issues. So then use layered consent strategies, individual plus familial, right? Uh, Flexible formats. So you can take consent from family as well as the individual. Individual may be willing, but family may not be willing, right? Family may be willing, but the individual may not be willing. And flexible formats, consent through audio or visual or written, and revisited consent throughout the study. So you keep it, it is not just standard. The respondents say after a point that no, no, I'm not willing to disclose more than this. So you have to be sensitive to that. Then these influence the research process, particularly in rural areas. caste and gender hierarchies influence a lot. So hierarchies influence who speaks, who is visible, and whose knowledge is considered as valid. So if you are collecting data from a household, if you want to approach a woman, then the elderly man or the male head of the family will come. No, no, don't ask her. She doesn't know anything. I'll give responses. Though particularly you are dealing with women, no, women in the women's role in the informal economy and maternal and child care. So then obviously you will encounter these situations. No, no, that girl doesn't know anything. You ask me, mother may say, or the grandfather may say, or grandmother may say, right? So these hierarchies, particularly against gender, particularly against women. In some cultures, women are not supposed to speak to strangers, particularly men, right? So they may not be accessible to you. So on behalf of the woman respondent, the husband will be saying or responding. And other dimension is that the lower caste women, Dalit women may be excluded from village meetings where data is collected or narratives constructed. So they may not be visible at all. They may not be referred to by uh, the the organizers, the NGOs who you are going with or who is guiding you. So you be kind of have an eye on these. Whom are you meeting? Why only these people? Why not other people? So be inquisitive. Then research may produce exclusion by privileging dominant caste male voices. So this you are familiar. Then position of the researcher can exacerbate or mitigate these dynamics. So how do you identify yourself as part of, if you are belonging to an upper caste, right? Men, then your position as researcher will influence, and you tend to align more with upper caste men, or so will it help or will it not help in the research process? Then use intersectional sampling methods, engage in reflexivity and co-create spaces. Then managing expectations. It is often we feel that we encounter this. Participants often believe research will lead to tangible benefits, like what benefit we get. So if you say that we are coming from so and so government office or so and so NGO or whatever it is, then they obviously relate their prospects. What will I get if I respond to this? Will I, if you are coming from a state government, will I get some benefit out of this? So the expectations also may lead to uh, misrepresentation of facts by the respondents also. For example, recently during Kharif season, last Rabi season in Telangana, there was a hailstorm and many crops were damaged. And when the agriculture officers went to survey, everyone started saying that no, no, even our crops got failed, even though very say only 10% of the crop is damaged, then they would say 100% crop is damaged. So that is kind of expectancy. If they report more, and they'll get more compensation. So the tangible benefits, development aid, jobs, or policy change. For example, in villages affected by agrarian distress, research may be perceived as a path to government support, right? If expectations are unmet, communities may feel betrayed or exploited, especially if sensitive stories were shared. Then, as you're an outsider, how do you see yourself? It's part of your positionality and reflexivity. How do you see? Are you seen as an, how villagers see or the respondents see you as an outsider, official, or partner, right? Reflect on how your identity shapes access and interpretation, and keep a reflexive journal. What assumptions did I carry today? So, uh, get familiarized with the place. These days, you have a lot of sources. right? And then position yourself and appropriately behave. And then, as we have discussed, use oral consent in local language if literacy is low, and respect local leadership, particularly elders, SSG leaders, Gram Panchayat representatives, etc. Store data securely, avoid casual sharing with anyone. You cannot actually, some people are inquisitive, those who take you to different respondents, no? They will ask you, hey, what did she say about so and so? Then you have to politely deny. Say that no, no, she didn't say anything, or you can just say that no, we cannot disclose because they have their own interests, right? Rivalries, factions, there are several things. Then dress modestly and speak respectfully. For example, if you are going to rural Andhra Pradesh, you say namaskaram, and ayya for elderly man and amma for elderly woman. Right? These are cultural sensitivities. If you are going to North India, you have different decorum, right? Dress, it should be appropriate. So you cannot wear shorts and then a t-shirt. You may go, you can go, but the intensity of reception will be different. Then avoid visits during harvests, festivals, or mourning. So particularly uh, some kind of unfortunate incident, and somebody is sick in that house, right, and seriously ill, and you cannot pester them for data uh, among them. So don't interrupt rituals or enter sacred spaces without permission. This is very important dimension. Like in South India, there is a custom of leaving chapel outside the house. You cannot enter house with chapel, right? So you have to be sensitive. You cannot just walk in like that. And then uh, extra care with SC, ST, women, and person with disabilities. Avoid tokenism, and your voice also matters. How you are posing your questions, right? You start with pleasantries and then enter into serious discussion, and use inclusive language and avoid deficit framing. Deficit framing is like focusing on their problems, focusing on their limitations, shortcomings, right? And which actually reinforce the stereotypes and systemic biases. You can have systematic biases. So you can actually how uh, look at it from a positive side, what they can contribute, how they are overcoming, despite all these limitations, how they are surviving. So what is that motivates them to continue in their life? So don't be always in this impression that they lack, they need something, they are poor, they are at the receiver's end, they are at the God's mercy or state's mercy. No, no, they have their own ways of uh, interpreting things. They have their own ways of managing things. So identify their. You look at rural women, how positive they are, how much motivation they have to come up in life. They never live in despair, although they look very poor and vulnerable. But they never give their emotional strength. Actually, many of them, given a chance, they would like to come up in life, right? So don't be under that deficit framing always. And note taking and data ethics, like use coded identifiers, farmer A instead of full names if there are some limitations or some uh, kind of sensitivities. Validate findings with participants. If you are observing something, then ask them, is it correct? Is it the correct way of looking at things, right? So there may be a completely different version which they give. And don't record sensitive information without consent. So avoid romanticizing and stereotyping. This is the most common problem. When you go to rural areas, you think that rural people are so hospitable. They invite everyone with open arms, and they are there ready to help you, to give you the information. No, no, no. So all these uh, the dark side of what we see in urban areas are also there in rural areas. So don't think that all rural people are naive. Don't think that all these rural people are simple, right, in terms of several dimensions. And use quotes with dignity. A woman farmer from Kalyan Durgam Mandal said, right, when you're writing, a woman farmer from so and so Mandal. A woman said, so don't use such kind of disrespectful references. Then acknowledge community knowledge and co-authorship when you are writing your brief. Acknowledge community knowledge or co-authorship. So, what ethical challenges do you anticipate uh, when you are writing the report? And write one ethical commitment in Telugu. That means it can be like how you have you are going to present the observations uh, in your report, right? You want to be honest to the core. You don't want to misinterpret. You don't want to give information which they have not given, right? So give. That means when I'm saying in Telugu because I thought some of you will be going to Telugu villages also, Andhra villages. So one ethical commitment and thank the community in your brief. That is very essential. So coming to the last few slides, wherein uh, ethical breaches across the research cycle. For example, problem selection. It starts with problem selection, bias in choosing topics, ignoring pressing local issues in favor of funder-driven agendas, or design and planning, lack of community input, designing surveys without consulting local stakeholders. So you sit at your office and then design your surveys without knowing the ground level information. Then data collection, coercion or lack of consent, using village gatekeepers to pressure participation. Like I told you that you ask Sarpanch to mobilize people for your data collection, though they may not be interested. And misrepresentation can happen in analysis, overgeneralizing findings from one hamlet to another and to entire region, right? So what you observed in one particular section, you because you associate with that statement and you tend to generalize to the entire village or group of villages. Then dissemination, exclusion of community, publishing in academic journals, right? So these are the issues uh, which can happen and which we have to be sensitive as researchers when you are actually visiting the field for the first time. Even if you are familiar with rural areas, you might have not entered the area as a researcher. So your uh, dynamics actually differ when you go as a researcher. Another important point I forgot to mention is that the researcher and the respondent dynamics which happen during the interview time. What happens is that what we have observed is we tend to look for chairs or places where we can sit comfortably. And but the respondent actually, if the person is a poor Dalit woman, would tend to sit on the floor, on the ground, then you cannot have that power asymmetry there. So you offer a chair to her or you sit down on the floor. So that will actually changes the entire dynamics, the respondent and the researcher or the interviewer dynamics. So be sensitive to some of these issues, right? And these days you can carry some toffees, chocolates, right? You can offer them uh, if it is not kind of not against their cultural practices. So this is where I stop, Aman. If there are any clarifications, I'm here to address.
Am I audible, sir? Am I audible to all of you?
Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you so much, sir, for giving such an informed, culturally rooted, and because whenever a field, because when I was working as a field investigator, so though I faced such challenges, and I came to know that once we have to be very much inclusive when we start collecting some data, because of our data collection was totally related to the medical ethics, particularly for the clinical drug trials. So it was these kind of challenges I personally faced while during my field visit in state of Odisha and in state of Telangana. So this is what this workshop. I think the objective of this workshop is being completed via this workshop, and I feel whosoever is going to enter into the field after this workshop, they will understand that once they enter into the field, they have to be inclusive in their approach, and they have to be culturally rooted, and how to talk and how to extract the information from the people by becoming the part of their own community, by talking to them in their own local languages. And this is why when I was working in West Bengal, I had to learn the Bengali, the Chalu Bangla, because I had to communicate with the Santhali tribal. So this is how the people when enter into the rural area, rural context, so they have to be more inclusive. They have to understand what kind of ideology stereotypes they do have for the researchers and the NGO persons whosoever comes for for the information, to extract the information, or they ultimately promises the false promises, and they don't fulfill those promises. So we have to basically be very much conscious about such things. So I request and I wish that everybody is very well informed as of after at the end of this workshop. So if anybody has any question, any query, so can ask the professor, and professor will definitely address your questions. So if anybody has any questions or any query regarding the same, please ask the same. Anybody from the interns. You can raise your hand and can ask. Please be interactive. And I don't know why are not you talking too much, because ultimately in the previous discussion they were interacting too much. Maybe this is the first time you are interacting with the Professor Reddy. But yes, you have to be interactive, and you have to ask the question. Only then your query will be addressed, and we will understand that you have understood the idea of this workshop, that what exactly we expected at the end of this workshop.
So I had a question.
Yeah, Ayushi, please.
So you talked about how in a lot of cases, if you're trying to talk to a female respondent, the male family head might intervene. How would you recommend to navigate such a situation? Because there is a chance that somebody might get aggressive. So how would you de-escalate the situation and still ensure that you're able to conduct the interview properly?
Yeah, these are actually rare. These days, women are also empowered thanks to these SSGs and all. They are sensitive, and then women actually may come forward, and woman herself may say that no, no, I will answer. But in some cases, as I have mentioned, it may happen. In such a case, what you can do is the respondent interview can be cut short, and then you replace the respondent with another respondent who genuinely comes forward to give you information. That's one way. Then another way is to polite the male member to stop interfering. You can say politely, because saying that this is so and so concerned with women, you can actually say jokingly. There are it depends on how you manage your personality, right? So you can dissuade the person from interfering more. If you cannot, then as I told you, you can replace the respondent. So you may not consider this respondent's responses as valid, and you look for another respondent.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Arushika, Vaishnavi, Janya, Asif, Tikeswar, Kesav, Girija. So I think it is done, right?
Yeah.
So thank you so much, sir, for giving your time, and it was really an immense pleasure, and I'm looking forward to meet you in person when I'll be visiting the Hyderabad. So we'll meet and we'll discuss further about the center, that what exactly the vision we do have. And thank you so much, sir, for giving your time, and thank you interns for interacting with us, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. Namaste.
Thank you all.
Yes.
Thank you,
All
sir.
the best. All the best.
Thanks.
Thank you, sir.